awesome. Kim Strubell, thanks for being on the podcast today.
My pleasure.
Yeah. I told my girlfriend Andy, my mom, and a few other people that you were going to be on the show, and the unanimous agreement was you're one of Fairfield's rare gems.
I don't know. It sounds like a challenge.
No, you're just such a straight shooter, and your mission is such a good one. I really want to hear more about it today. Charity Seeds.
Charity Seeds, it's obviously my favorite subject, and I would love to tell a lot more people about it because I really do feel the model itself is working.
Yeah.
And I started Charity Seeds, I'd say 10 years ago. And I was living in the Darien jungle, which is in Panama at the time. I was with my son Garrett Strubell, and we lived there for about a year with the Embera Indians. And when we were in the jungle...
A whole year?
Yeah.
It's incredible.
It was amazing. The living was easy. We had a straw hut. They let us live right in the village, pretty deep in the jungle. And the Darien jungle is a rare place in itself. It's 10,000 square miles of just unruly jungle. No roads, no infrastructure at all. So we were there, and it was wonderful. It was beautiful. The people were beautiful. And the Embera Indians are hunters and gatherers. So when we were there, we were noticing their lives, but we also noticed the influence of the outside world coming in too. So at night when we're sitting with the Embera Indians around a fire, you could see in the background the mountaintops were burning.
Wow.
And then the logging trucks, if you went outside a little bit, you'd see the logging trucks just clearing out the forest. So it was a mixed bag there. We were enjoying it and loving the life of the Embera Indians and the Kuna Indians, but we saw that influence was destroying the Darien jungle.
I have to ask, what got you out there, and what would make you stay for over a year?
Well, I was wrapping up. I think I was about 58 years old at the time. I had a decent business, and I was in sales and selling furniture, and I was kind of getting to the end of that. Didn't feel like I wanted to do it anymore. So I thought I had enough to retire, so I went down to Panama, and that's how that all started.
Wow.
But that influence of seeing the outsiders coming in and destroying that beautiful, beautiful piece of land, you start getting it in your head, what can you do? What can you do? And while I was there, I didn't feel I could do anything. But I was also seeing that the Indians, the natives, indigenous people living in the jungle were wiping out their own food supply. They were fishing out their streams. They were killing everything, the monkeys, anything that they saw in the jungle. So that certainly wasn't a sustainable way of life to continue. Something had to change.
Yeah, it's kind of surprising, actually, because you'd think of like indigenous peoples as just always embracing some level of sustainability, but what do you think was missing there?
I think what was missing was they always thought that river was going to feed them those fish, that it would keep coming and coming and coming. It was endless. And they were telling me that the fish were getting smaller and less. They had to go further away from their villages to find fish in pools. And there were no animals around. I mean, there were hardly any birds.
Yeah.
I'm in the middle of the Darien jungle, and every bird is being, eaten. So it was shrinking very fast, and as the jungle was shrinking itself, they were even thinking about putting in a dam in the middle of the Darien jungle. You understand that this is the 10,000 acres, the gap between Panama and Columbia. There's no roads. That's where the roads stop. And so there's nothing there. The only thing that was there were the drug smugglers coming up from Colombia, using the rivers to get the drugs up to Central and Central America. And it was a dangerous place for us to be. They told us if they saw us, they would cut our heads off with a machete.
Whoa.
It was that dangerous. But they always protected us. They led the ways on the paths when we went out walking and stuff, and they always warned us if there was anything around. So we never felt endangered. We never felt in trouble. But the one thing that was always troubling was that this place was being destroyed by themselves and by the outside influences. So I had it in my head, what do you do? What do you do? And so I finally left. I left Panama. My son Garrett stayed in Panama. So I went home and I was thinking, what can you do? What can you do? You know, is there anything? I don't want to be colonizing these people. That's the last thing I want to do. I don't want some American influence coming down to, you know, direct their lives. So I was just thinking about it. What do you do? Is it possible? And I started to get into sustainable ideas. And that's when I joined the university in Fairfield, MIU. And I took the sustainable living classes and learned a little bit about sustainability. What is it really? How deep is it? It's not just solar and it's not just wind and electric cars. It had to be deeper. So I learned that very carefully and I studied it, got a master's degree in it. And I learned that sustainable agriculture is a possibility as a way to move forward. And that's when I started Charity Seeds. When I started Charity Seeds, Garrett, it's a really cool story actually. Garrett was in Panama still, and he comes up to the United States and he goes to California, in Fairfield, Iowa. And so Garrett's in California and he's going to take a bus up to Orca Island where there's a sustainable farm. And I don't know this yet. I don't know anything about his plans. So he's in line getting on a bus, and there's two kids from Fairfield in that bus line, Justin Cutter and Oliver. I forget Oliver's first name. Anyway,
Yeah.
two students who went to school with Garrett in his class are in that bus line.
Oh my God.
And Garrett gets on the bus, and they say, "Where are you going?" And they said, "Oh, we're going up to, we're going up to John Jevons Farm, which is a sustainable living farm up in California." That's where Justin Cutter and Oliver was going. And Garrett said, "Well, I'm going further. I'm going up to Orca Island." They get on the bus together, and the bus, gets up to that Northern California location, and it breaks down. The bus breaks down. So Garrett's forced to get off the bus with Justin Cutter and Oliver. They're going to stick with Oliver. And so he gets off the bus. They go over to Jevons' place. John Jevons is a bio-intensive teacher. He's been teaching for 35 years. Now, Garrett calls me from California, and that's my first contact with him. And he's telling me his story and what he's doing. So I said, "Garrett, it's unbelievable. I've been taking these sustainable living classes, and the one name that keeps coming up is John Jevons. So I've been researching biointensive for the last 3 weeks." And he goes, "Well, guess what? I'm standing at his farm. I'm at the gate looking over the farm right now." And I said, "This is crazy. If you believe in synchronicity or, whatever, those things are, support of nature or whatever."
Absolutely.
It was lining up. And so I'm talking to him. I said, "Really?" And he goes, "Yeah, Jevons wants me to stay and learn this thing and become a manager at his farm." He goes, "I don't think I'll do that. I'll just go up to Orca Island when the bus gets ready, So that's how it kind of started. There was some synchronicity there that lined up. And in my sustainable living classes, I learned that Jevons had a very, very practical model to unfold for small-scale farms. So that's how I started with his 35 years of research. And with that, I started to look at the network of people that he had trained. So I personally never talked to John Jevons, but I emailed him and asked John, is it okay for Charity Seeds to do this? I want to start to hire people and start to do small-scale organic farming. He said, "Oh, absolutely, no problem at all." So Jevons gave me the green light to go with his network. Now, I looked at that network, and he had trained, in Kenya alone, he had trained 200 trainers, biointensive trainers. So I'm looking at this, and I'm seeing a whole network of trainers sitting there that's already built in for me.
Wow.
In Kenya. So I contacted Jevons again, and I said, "I see that you train these people through the Manor House," it was called, in Kenya, called the Kenya Project. And I said to him, I think it's great, but I'm concerned that I see it breaking down in one area, that these people, these trainers coming out of school, wanted to go teach rather than just open up a small garden at their house. They had 2 years of training. They don't want to stop there. So I saw this, and I said to Jevons, "Well, what I'd like to do with Charity Seeds is I'd like to tap into your network of trainers and build a organization that we can go and we can teach out in Kenya." And Jevons loved it. He gave me the okay, and we went with that. So I joined the networks in Kenya immediately. There was one organization called GBOC, GBIOC is Grow Biointensive Center Kenya. Okay, so they're an unbelievable organization. Paris and Samuel were the leaders of this, and they had a school there. And I said, well, I could just tap into them and start with them. So I did, and I started supporting GBIOC from the United States. We trained, not me, but with Samuel and Paris and that network of trainers there in Kenya, we put in 13,000 farms.
Wow.
In 2 years.
That's staggering.
It's staggering. So, so I said, this is a good start,
Seriously.
It's a good start. Now,
Yeah.
I have to say that these qualify it in a sense that these gardens are not huge farms. They're just, some of them are just 2, 3, 4, 5 beds at someone's home. Mm-hmm. And the reason the numbers were so big is we'd go to a village, and that village could be 1,500 people. And they trained the village how to do gardening in their little homes. That's how the whole project of Charity Seeds started. And with that success, I immediately went over to Africa, for one thing, for accountability, to make sure that these gardens were going with the methodology of biointensive. And also, is the money going to the right places? I had to check and make sure that that was right and in line. So it had the accountability. So I go to Africa, and
Wait, how long ago was that?
That was
trip?
about that was about 5 years ago. I've been twice.
Okay, sure.
Twice. And so I'm going to Africa, and I stayed 4 months. Hardest trip I ever made in my life.
How so?
Well, an old white man on the back of a motorcycle for 500 miles. That's a hard trip.
Yeah.
Now, I will say real quick to diverse a little bit, I fell twice, and but I will say that I didn't get hurt. We were going real slow. And we hit a soccer field, and the soccer field is like 3 inches of mud. So we slid for about 30 feet, and it felt like a memory foam bed,
Yeah, sure.
Didn't get hurt.
Yeah.
So I'm traveling in Africa, going everywhere I can to, again, for accountability and how to expand my influence in Africa.
Yeah.
And I go to this town, a city. It's probably the second largest city, Kisumu. It's where the Victorian Lake is, and the largest lake in the source of the Nile. And so I go to this lake, and I'm visiting as a tourist and exploring the options for Charity Seeds too. But I get on this boat, and I'm going out in the boat to see the hippos. I wanted to see the hippos and big crocodiles, So I go out in the boat.
That's pretty dangerous, isn't it? Hippos?
Oh, they're dangerous, but those are
Sure.
they're tourist traps, So, but I pay my $20 or whatever. I'm on the boat, and I get up maybe about 100 feet out, and I see over on the corner, just a little cove. There were maybe a dozen kids just swimming and playing and fighting and wrestling in the water. So I stopped the boat. I said, I don't want to go see the hippos. I'd rather go see these kids. And I did. And so I go over to see the kids, and there are a dozen of them there, and I buy about 10 loaves of bread. I had 10 loaves of bread in my hand as I'm walking towards these kids swimming in the lake, and they're all butt naked. They're coming out of the water. And so they're coming over to me. They're grabbing the bread. They're having fun. They're wrestling still. And these are street boys.
Yeah.
And that's what I fell in love with. They were little cowboys. They were mavericks. They ran around the city of Kisumu, jumping on backs of trucks, and just hanging on the trucks and playing. And it was a wonderful lifestyle. But I started to explore it a little more. But I'm going to tell a quick story before I go into that exploration.
Yeah.
So I'm in Kisumu. It's a crowded city. I'm walking down the street, and I'm probably, you can notice me there, gray hair, standing out in this city. So I'm walking down the street. I got a bunch of bananas in my right hand. And as I'm walking in the crowded street, I get hit pretty hard on my left side. And as I get hit, another kid comes and steals my bananas.
Oh, my
So I was the trap here. And this kid runs. He steals my bananas. He runs about 10 feet. He turns around, and he poses, and he looks at me, and he goes, Chuck Norris! So I wanted to catch that kid and kick his butt, but I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
So that's, again, I love these boys. I love their attitudes, their life. But then I started to explore a little bit more about their lives. And so I followed them. I followed them during the day, and I became friends with a few of them. They took me to a place where they stayed most of the day. They just hung around in this big park. And I saw the downside of being a street boy now. These boys would go to the factories, the shoe factories, and they'd steal glue out of the garbage cans and sniff glue all day. And so now I see it. That's why their eyes were so deep red and dark. And their lives are being, just shut down totally. And I still followed them. I kept going because I wanted to find out, again, what can you do to help a group like this? And it seems impossible. So I even went to this where they slept. There was this garbage pit. It must have been 100 feet high. And I was there at about 6 a.m. I had sandals on and shorts and a T-shirt, and I'm climbing up this hill of garbage. And all the street boys started to come out, hundreds of them. They were living in cardboard boxes in this big dump. And they'd scrape the food out of cans with their fingers and eat the food. And then they took me to this old man that lived in a box for 35 years. He was blind, and they'd bring him cans of food and feed him. So I felt this compassion there with these kids. I really, really connected with them. The sad part about it is those kids could have buried me in that garbage pit and taken my sandals. No one would have ever known.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious too, when you travel like this, and it's not like some tour guide that you found through Expedia and suddenly you're getting this. I mean, you're in the thick of it. You're an adventurer.
I think it was important to see both sides of, I had to see the deepest dark side.
Yeah.
And also, where is it that I can help? That was the point of going to these places. I love this opportunity to talk about it because I can go on forever, really. There's the girl side of it too.
Yeah, I'd love to hear it.
The idea, how can I help now? I have this knowledge, this methodology of small-scale farming. What do I do with it? I started going to schools. And I said, education is the way. Start at the schools. And also orphanages, if there's places where these boys were. And that's where Charity Seeds settled. We didn't go to the villages as much. We weren't doing the mass numbers. We started to focus more on the orphanages and the schools. And I liked that better because the accountability was better. I knew if the gardens were producing, and I knew what they did for the kids. And so just a quick success story of Charity Seeds, and it's my favorite story, is we have one school that has 97 street boys. It's an orphanage. And 97 street boys, I'd say 90% of them have HIV. So they're there, and Charity Seeds came in and started to teach organic gardening to them. This was 1 year ago. And a year later, it's the first school that I have, Charity Seeds, that these boys are totally food independent.
Wow.
Totally food independent.
Yeah.
They don't have to go to markets. They don't have to steal bananas. They have their own gardens, and they take care of them, and they grow them.
That's incredible.
That's my best success story, I think. And now, starting today, what we do is we follow through when we get to school that's independent and sustainable, and then we'll start up another school, and we're starting one today in Africa.
Today?
Yeah.
All right.
Her name is Maureen Maynor. She's my trainer. And by the way, I only use trainers from their regions. I never bring in an outside trainer.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So I maintain, and the reason I do that, it's practical. So Maureen, who's from that area, she knows the soil, she knows the seeds, she knows the water cycles, and she knows what grows and what doesn't grow. And she knows how to fix things with bugs. So we only use people from the region to do the training for Charity Seeds. And that supports their local region, and it also maintains their cultures. The new school that we're opening today with Maureen, she just moved there yesterday, is a school with 107 children, boys and girls. But these boys and girls, it's a new one for us. It's a new challenge. These boys and girls are mentally challenged. Not physically challenged, mentally challenged. So, they're in this orphanage, this home, and there's 107 of them. And we're setting up the program. Right now, the school is actually shut down because of COVID. So what we're doing is we're bringing parents in, obviously paying attention to the rules. And we're training the parents about the gardens. And the goal is that these kids who are mentally challenged can go home and assist the parents at their homes in the gardening.
Wow.
So it gives them a purpose. It gives them, a feeling of accomplishment. And it also helps the family now. They can contribute to the family rather than be a burden, I'm sorry to say. So that's our goal. We're starting today with the parents. And so we got the school going, and we'll have an outreach program that goes to the parents and to the village for community gardens off of this one school. That's the Africa project.
That's incredible.
What was your question?
Well, I do have a question. What separates those boys and girls from living a life on the streets to being lucky enough to find themselves either in an orphanage or some positive alternative? Is it just a crummy roll of the dice, or is it a little deeper than that?
There are some wonderful NGOs in Africa, mostly religious based, and so there's opportunities throughout Africa. Many times it's the choice of the kid. A lot of them don't want to go to the home. They go and they run away. So that's a big problem, So that's why I think it's important to go to the schools and start with education. I don't believe that I can fix the problem of street boys in Africa. I'm not pretending I can. It's huge.
Yeah.
It's huge. There's also another aspect of it. I call them street boys, and then I call this other part the other side of the street, which is the girls. And this is a very sensitive topic.
Yeah.
Very sensitive.
Yeah.
So I wanted to learn about their lives too, and what their challenges were, the girls on the streets and stuff. So I went to the city of Mombasa, which is on the Indian Ocean. Now, what I'm talking about is, prostitution.
Yeah.
And the Mombasa is a beautiful, beautiful city on the Indian Ocean in Kenya. It's where all the Europeans come down for the vacation. Not all of them. I made a mistake there. Many come down for their sex vacations. To Mombasa. And so I'm going in there thinking, what can I do to fix this too? It's huge. Problem. It's massive. But I learned something, Luke, that changed my perspective, changed my life, a whole paradigm of thinking, is that, and not everybody's going to agree to this, but the women in Mombasa, during the day, they're just doing their regular jobs and taking care of kids or whatever. And then at night, they go to clubs. And I was there in Mombasa for about 3 weeks. I go to bed at 9 o'clock. I couldn't stay up to go to these clubs. So finally one night I stay up. I got to go, I got to see what the world is like,
Yeah.
So I have to say, I go to these clubs, and these clubs are gorgeous. They're on top of rooftop hotels. They're all open. They got beautiful music and video showing, and everybody's up there just having a blast. Now, around 12 o'clock, the girls come in groups. Now, I'm talking girls that are 18 and above, okay? That's this group. And so they're just dancing in groups and having a lot of fun. And then they hook up about 2 or 3 in the morning and get paid and go home. That changed my perspective on things. And I'm saying it takes them a month to earn that much money. They get about $100, And then I looked at it, but then there's different levels. When it gets to children that are 12 and 13 years old, that my perspective changes totally.
Yeah.
These children don't have a choice.
Yeah.
The 20-year-olds, the 25-year-olds have a choice.
They're free to make their decisions.
Yeah. So my learning curve was massive at that time.
No, I understand what you're saying, and I have a little bit of exposure to this. I was in Thailand for a time.
Exactly.
I was in Bangkok.
Exactly.
So I got to see that side of things too. Crazy nightlife.
Right.
And you talk to some of these locals, and this is what they do. And not only that, but they're supporting their parents,
Right.
grandparents, and so on and so forth. So there, there's clear motivations to do that. And then some people, if they're really freaking lucky, they'll get some Western style education, and they'll get a scholarship to come to America.
Right.
That's like the golden
Right.
ticket.
Right. It did change me. And then I did look further. It's actually protected by the government too. That's the hard part to understand. I'm talking the trafficking in the younger kids. They're protected. They want that tourism. And so that was a hard thing to deal with. So I looked at it further, and I went to different places now off of the clubs, and I went into these dark, dark alleys, really dark. I had to turn on my cell phone flashlight to see where I was walking, and it was this other level of, was working. And I went in, and there were a couple girls there, and I asked them, I said, look, I'm not here for service. The best I can, I didn't speak their language. I just want to see, ask you some things. But I gave them their going rate, paid them. And I said, well, how much do you get paid usually? $1.50.
Wow.
And I said, whoa, there's the difference here, And so I interviewed these girls, and that was sad. That was the dark side, real dark side. And there was some very, very young in that alley and in the rooms, young kids.
That's awful. And how's the crime and the violence in these places? Is it?
Oh, there's a lot of petty theft. I never felt threatened in Africa, no matter where I went. I never felt that fear or threat. I saw some things, Luke. I don't know if it's even. I don't think I should say them. I saw some things. It was really dark, really dark. They treat the crime in a different way there than they do here. Well, I will tell you. It was in Mombasa, and I'm coming home to my hotel, and there's a stack of tires, maybe 4, 5, 6 tires stacked, and they're burning, they're melting still. I didn't see the actual, they had just burnt a person in there.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Whoa.
So they handle their criminals locally, because they say they send them to the police, and the police just release them, and they're back on the street doing the exact same thing. So they'll set, an example like that, and that was horrible,
Yeah.
But they treat the locals and the crime, locally. They take care of it themselves. So I never felt threatened, never. I loved Africa. It was hard. It was a hard way to live for me, because I didn't have enough money to travel with limousines or, I had to travel publicly on the public transportation. It was very hard. But what an experience.
I was going to say, going in there with this journalistic, mission and really immersing yourself in the culture and everything that's going on, how powerful that is, especially, and how it fuels your initiatives today.
Yeah. Especially now that there's some success, doing this now for 9, 10 years, put in a lot of farms, but seeing that the orphanage and the schools are starting to invite us now, where before it was me knocking on doors. Central America, where we started programs down there in South America. And the cultures are different, so the approach and the methodology was different. But again, we always use people from that region. And that's the most important thing. And now we're working in Central America and Guatemala with the Mayans. And
how did you choose that location specifically?
Oh, that was it. Okay. Well, I started in Columbia. Father Gabriel, who's a priest in Columbia, has contacts in Fairfield, and he has a huge orphanage, thousands of kids in Columbia. He comes to Fairfield sometimes to give speeches. And some people hooked me up with Father Gabriel. And so Father Gabriel asked me to come down and put some gardens in the orphanages. So we went to Columbia, and we used somebody from the area, Moses, who's from Central America more. And we put in 3 beautiful, beautiful gardens in 3 orphanages there in Columbia. And from there, I met other people that took me to Guatemala.
Mm,
And Guatemala has been a very good project.
that's awesome.
See, people hardly know Guatemala. It's very poor.
Mm,
So there's a lot of disadvantaged villages, a lot of children with malnutrition, just not getting the right foods. So Moses Lopez, is my trainer there.
mm.
And I flew down to Guatemala to spend time with Moses and make sure we're on the same page. I am not there to teach Moses. I am not there to direct him what to do in Guatemala. He is the director of that country. He knows the Mayans. He is Mayan himself. So I stayed with Moses for about 3 weeks, and he asked me what I wanted to do, and I think the best way to approach this is to go to schools. And so we literally drove around Guatemala knocking on doors of schools and talking to principals. I was there for 3 weeks. Not one school signed up. They're all so skeptical about NGOs, about nonprofits coming in and making promises.
Why do you think that is? Or what was the main concern?
Well, I'm going to try to qualify Charity Seeds a little bit, why the approach is different. A lot of them, so you get these wonderful organizations like CARE, right now they're advertising, for $120 will feed a family for 30 days. Now, there is a very serious time and need for that, right now, because the COVID, they're going hungry. They can't even go to the markets.
Mm.
So there's a need for that. And yes, you have to give them a basket of food. Charity Seeds goes against that philosophy, though. We think it's better for $20 to teach them how to grow their own food.
Teach a man to fish.
Teach them how to fish.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
That's the concept. It seems to be working. No, I know it's working.
Yeah.
Because I'm getting reports now in Guatemala that these people have no need to go to the market anymore. They're getting all their food from home. So we knocked on doors, and we didn't get hardly any response. All those schools that said no to us a year later are calling us now. And one of them was a Mayan school. They teach the language again. They're holding the culture and all the instruments and music, and they want to bring back agroecology again, small scale agroecology farms. So at this school that they said no to us a year ago, we're there now, and now it's mandatory for them to do the program to graduate. Guatemala came in. Now we got noticed because of the schools. They came in, and the government of Guatemala says we want gardens in every school in Guatemala now. So we can't jump that fast. We got to keep the horse in front of the cart, so to speak. But that's our goal, and it's moving. We have 4 or 5 schools in now, and the most important part of this when we go to school is that the outreach program is there. Outreach meaning that we're going to the parents and going to the village for community gardens. So now that the shutdown was happening, it actually pushed us to do that because we're not just settled in the school. We're out, and the parents started coming to school to harvest the food that was already there. They're seeing it, and they're saying, why don't we do this at home?
Makes so much sense. That's amazing.
So it's happening.
Well, so you mentioned this a couple of times about COVID. I'm curious how that's presented unique challenges or perhaps unique opportunities as well.
The challenges are there because the schools are shut down totally. The kids were sneaking into the schools, actually jumping the fence to harvest their food that they had been preparing before, and the parents too. What I'm hearing the stories are, we have the gardens now at our homes. We don't have to go to the markets. We don't even have to go beyond the borders. And these borders are shut down. They can't even leave their communities. They're shut down by guards with guns.
Wow.
Yeah. So Moses, again, he's finding ways, and because the girls are calling him, the girls and boys at the schools, and say, Moses, can you come to my house and help me with the farm here? He's doing that. This week, we opened 10 families just this week have gardens now at their homes.
Fantastic.
I know. Moses is totally incredible. And so Charity Seeds we're not there to teach them anything. This methodology of agroecology is 2,000 years old. I don't know how many years old, but it's not like a Western thing that we're doing. We're not teaching them. Permaculture is a Western thing. Biointensive is a Western thing. Biodynamics is a Western thing. So we're not doing that. We're using the agroecology and using all the principles of the land, that they've done for years, thousands of years. But they didn't know how to do organic. They got stopped there because they were used to doing, just using chemicals and stuff and having to buy their seeds. So there was nothing sustainable about it. So now they're doing sustainable organic agriculture.
That's wonderful. Is there motivation to do non-organic farming out there?
There's serious motivation to do non-organic because it's easy.
Yeah.
They're trained that way. We don't have to worry about the bugs because we'll just spray it.
Right.
But climate change is a serious thing. And what we're seeing is, that's why, again, I love using people from that region, from that village, because they know the cycles and they know what to do and prepare for it. So climate change has expanded. Right now, their drought season was about a month long. Now it's about 3 months. So now they have to prepare for that. And so we're getting into water, saving water a lot more. And our methodology alone, it's biointensive with agroecology expansion to it. And so, but our method of planting is totally amazing. And what we do, Luke, is we start with 1 square meter, about the size of this table we're sitting at, okay? And we teach on that 1 square meter. So a student comes and he gets his square meter.
Wow.
He gets a meter. And we teach them, first they have to grow the soil. And then you grow your plants. But first that soil has to be grown. So we teach them how to work this 1 square meter. And we teach them what's called double digging. It's a practical technique because some of this soil is rock hard. And so the plants won't penetrate that. Even if you do just the first 6 inches, it's going to hit that hard soil and the roots will spread out, going, horizontal rather than vertical.
I was going to say, because I watched that new video that Stuart, Tanner, and Cody helped produce for you. And if you haven't seen it, go to the website, check it out. But in the video, you're standing next to the dirt. And I'm like, how the heck is anything going to grow in that?
Exactly right.
Well, so how do you cultivate it?
Okay, so we immediately dig almost 1.5 feet, 2 feet. It's called double digging. So we clear out 2 feet of a bed. The bed is only about 2 feet wide, depending on the length is, up to them. But we clear it out totally, get that soil out of there with those simple tools. And then we use the compost from the area, all the banana leaves, whatever it is, the compost. And we mix it in. We use chicken manure and other things that will add to the nutrients to that soil. And when we're done with that soil at the end of the day, they could take both hands or reach down 2 feet and bring up the soil from 2 feet down.
Wow.
And it's rich with nutrients and ready to plant. And now here's the best thing about that. So now you got this soil where the plants can penetrate almost 2 feet down. The plant's roots can go straight down. So you can start to companion plant tighter and tighter. You can get closer and closer. So now, you ever hear of the 3 sisters?
Yeah. But you'll have to remind me again how it...
The 3 sisters is a permaculture technique.
Yeah.
So you have some corn that grows straight up. Okay, but if your roots are going way down, now you can plant on that. You can plant beans, which, use the stalk as support. And then under that, a nitrogen fixer, squash. And I may get this wrong on the nitrogen and stuff like that, but you have squash. So you got 3 vegetables in 1 square foot. So you've just increased your yield by about 70%.
How much could that feed potentially?
The square meter is more for education.
Okay. That makes sense.
And the reason I do that, and I'm very serious, Moses sticks right to it. I love it. Because now they're seeing, okay, we planted all these vegetables in 1 square meter. And what if we did that 10 times? And that's what they're seeing. And the most important thing is they're seeing success very quickly. And on that video that you watched is this one girl, Vilma, 8th grade girl, who is taking this and knowledge and just loving it. And in fact, in the video, she says, when I started the gardening, I had a thrill. That was her expression. Now, when I went down to meet Vilma, and went to the school. We wanted to interview her, and she said yes, she would love to. She's 8th grade. Been working in the gardens for about a year now, producing tons of food. And Vilma really wanted to be on the video. So we mic'd her up and we got the cameras. And then when all the people got on the back of the cameras, she froze. She could not move. She was holding her stomach, turning around. She couldn't speak. She was a mess. And then Moses, I said, Moses, just stand next to her, and start talking to yourself, So he did. He stood next to her, asked her a question like, what's your name? What grade you in? She opened up and exploded. And you saw the film, she is just so dynamic. She's like a little Greta,
Yeah.
Oh my God, it was so beautiful. Now, we edited, shortened that a lot, because it's a 5-minute film. But
yeah,
now she goes to the schools now. She's like a spokesperson going to the classes saying, why aren't you out there? You're missing the best opportunity in your life, Come to the garden and work. And so now the parents are coming in. The outreach program is there because of her. She's just spreading the word like crazy. And so that's how I think it's going to happen. And now we're seeing that. They're coming together. Why aren't you coming to school? Come to my garden. We're going to be doing composting today, and learn that. And that's how it's starting. And the families are coming together. We had 85 families come in, just to learn.
That's incredible. It's like, why don't you come over here? The grass is pretty green.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah. And so that's what I wanted. We can't just base it on Moses teaching at a school, 4 or 5 times a year.
Yeah.
It's gotta have that organic, everybody wanting to join in. And that's what's happening.
Wow. You go there, you enlist the help of locals, but how many people are actually on your team, say here in the States or in Fairfield even?
Well, I have to get a bigger office. It's just me.
See, that's even more incredible.
The overhead is cheap.
That's so awesome.
Well, okay. Yeah, I wish there was more.
No, that's actually more impressive to me. But the fact that you can connect with these local groups of people in the way that you do, and in the beginning you were talking about 13,000 garden beds, if I heard you correctly. It's just like, that's incredible.
I should back up on that one because I'm not. Again, they're small.
They're small, sure, but come on,
yeah. And you're going to groups. Maasai, yeah, the Maasai group. 1,500 people came to the training. So it's kind of like that.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So I think I learned something. I think quality is better than quantity at this point. And so doing masses like that, I'd rather do the schools, and then the quality is maintained going to the homes, and then also to, the villages and doing community gardens. We're learning a lot as we go through this.
Yeah. And what are your visions for the future of this organization?
I get the bug to expand, but I also want to be careful because I do want to maintain
like
quality.
You said that, yeah.
There's a chance in Ecuador. I want to get into maintaining and saving seeds in Central and South America. And Ecuador is a place where we may start because there's an indigenous group down there that wants to do it. So I've contacted them, and we want to create a seed sieving, not a bank, not a seed bank, where you have vaults to protect that seeds forever. This is more of a co-op and exchanging seeds and indigenous seeds and having markets so people can come to the markets and get seeds. We want to start that in Ecuador. And so other parts of Central and South America also can get in on this too. Because the seeds are, to me, the most important thing, and they're losing them. So that's a goal right now that I'm working on. I got a contact, a wonderful man, is Javier Carrera in Ecuador, and we have 150 permaculturists already set up to go. But it comes down to me supporting it.
Yeah. Well, so I'm curious how you get funded. Surely people are giving you donations. Tell me a little bit about that.
It was, I learned along the way, I used to stand out in the farmer's market and do, little fairs and sell T-shirts and stuff like that. And then I realized that, making $50 standing out at the farmer's market is not going to do this, So I started try to learn about social marketing and the impact of that, and that's where I went. I am slow at it.
I'm trying to get caught up too, actually.
It's interesting. It's moving quickly. The way we do it is that if somebody gives $20, that $20 goes to the farms, 100%. 100% goes to taking care. But there's 2 accounts that I have set up. One for me? No. No, there's 2 accounts. One for the farms and the setting up the schools, and the other one is for admin. That if a corporation gives money, I can use that for admin, for administration fees. And that's where the marketing comes in. And so you have to have both. You cannot just give 100%.
Yeah, you need outreach.
You need outreach
and marketing.
Yeah. So that's what I did is I set it up so a person can feel comfortable thinking, well, I just gave you $10. Where's that going, Well, it's going 100% to the people in the fields. And it's a statement I can make because somebody gave me some money and they said, you can use this for admin. I know you have to have this too. And so that's why I have 2 bank accounts, actually separate accounts.
What an incredible initiative you're doing.
Salary I haven't taken a salary in 10 years.
I
have paid for my plane tickets going down to Africa.
Okay, good. Yeah. I think you deserve that.
Yeah.
Well, what else don't we know about your journey?
Well, there's been a lot of help. And what I'm finding is that in the charity NGO world, unfortunately, there's a lot of competition because of the way of fundraising. There's competition, for dollars. And this is an area I'm studying now because I don't like that area. I don't want it to be there. I think we should be cooperating, a collaboration, rather than a competition. They're more using contractors that they'll pay rather than using another NGO because they're afraid that they're going to steal some of their donation dollars, So that's an area right now that I think has to be shifted in that world. And also, there's a bad reputation for NGOs, for nonprofits. 10 cents of a dollar going to actually help somebody.
Yeah, that's wildly inefficient.
Yeah, that's just, I do believe that somebody should be paid well, and that just because they're a nonprofit doesn't mean they shouldn't be paid well. Especially if you have an incredible marketer, that's bringing in some very valuable funds to open up other projects. That person should be compensated accordingly, not overboard,
Right.
Whatever the market is, But because I don't feel that someone, just because they work for a nonprofit, should be volunteer all the time.
I agree with you there. I think it's so interesting that, the work you're doing in charities, the things we're seeing with COVID and all this other stuff, food scarcity might be like a serious problem. And that like your model, we need this in our schools and the entire world. We need many, many more of you.
I think that's why, I think so too. Again, that's why I'm saying cooperation is the way to go. I would not be protective and competitive to this. It should, because there's so many boxes you could check off, Luke, when you look down this, putting in a small scale farm or, just a garden. And one of them is climate change. It's going to help. The other one is you can empower children. You can empower women. You can educate. So when I'm getting reports from the people who put in gardens saying, thank you, we don't have to go to the markets ourselves. We got it all right here. And everything is self-contained in this methodology. There's no outside resources.
The benefits are tenfold. It's incredible.
Yeah.
And then you think about what it would be if you just gave them a can of food.
It doesn't work.
Yeah.
It works for that day.
Yeah, that one day. Yeah. That's it.
But you have to get to a point where they are sustainable, and it doesn't take much.
No.
It doesn't take much. We can do in Guatemala, okay? We could have 2 beds, maybe 3 feet wide, maybe 20 feet long, 2-3 beds. Because you have 4 harvests a year there, we can feed a family of 4 forever for $20.
That's magic.
That's a powerful statement.
Yeah.
And the way I can qualify that is we're not building huge buildings. We're not building schools. We're not, the infrastructure isn't costing us millions of dollars. All we're doing is putting in a garden. So that $20 is for a little bit of education and buying some seedlings and maybe some chicken manure if they didn't have chickens to begin with. And from that $20, we can feed that family forever.
$20?
$20.
I got $20. I'm going to give you $20 right now.
What account do I put it in? No.
Yeah.
Where's the camera? I don't know.
No, I mean, I'm blown away.
See, it's because it's education. Like Charity Water is a wonderful, wonderful organization putting in wells, mostly in Africa. But it cost $50,000 to contract equipment. I'm making that number up. So Charity Water, if you're listening,
Sure.
Sorry I got it wrong,
Yeah.
But because it's so hard to travel in Africa to
Yeah.
get a rig there to do it, And then, so it costs, they're raising millions and millions of dollars. They do an incredible job of promotion. And they're putting in thousands and thousands of wells, and they do a great job. I really think their heart and intention is right on. If you're really going to be sustainable, use it, find that way that you can really build without having to raise $500,000 to begin.
That's so great.
Yeah.
So people listening to this say, hey, I want to support your endeavors. Where do they go? Do they go to the website? What is the website?
Paradiso.
Paradiso. Yeah.
Meet me there. No,
That's great. Well, we might have some listeners in Fairfield and beyond, actually, so you never know.
No. Well, charityseeds.org
Okay.
is the organization. Yeah, they can check out the website. That'd be a good place to start. And again, just sharing. That cooperation and sharing is the only way this is really going to get out there.
Yeah.
So
It's like true grassroots.
Yeah, it's very grassroots.
Yeah.
I don't have big donors. I get small donors, and there's one corporation that I'm raising about $50,000 a year right now on social marketing, and one is a good corporation. It gives every year. I have to keep that going because you never know when things shift. Just stay ahead of that game. And it's always a hustle. I have to admit, it's a hustle. No matter what, right now I'm selling, so it's the same thing,
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you couldn't do it without it being a labor of love. So
Yeah, it's like I said when we first started the interview, it really is my favorite thing to talk about and do. And with this Ecuador project going on right now, then one in Africa starting with the mentally handicapped children, that's just starting. There's some good opportunity and potential for it to shift into a bigger level.
Well, I certainly wish you the best of success in all that you're doing to enrich and uplift the world.
Thank you.
Yeah. And thanks so much for talking to me today. It's really great to have you on the show.
That's wonderful. Thanks for inviting me, Luke.
Yeah. All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
See ya.